Hello everyone. Okay, so we have received many requests about integrating gradients in CodyFrame because gradients right now is just such a popular thing in web design. So today we are introducing text and background gradients. So let me show you how they work. All right, so first of all, we need to move to the color global editor, where we can create our gradients. So we have a new section right here. So I have already created a gradient. Let me eliminate this. And so to create a new item in the gradient section, you just have to click the plus icon here. And the generated gradient is a combination of the primary color and the secondary color, which is called color stop 2, which is automatically generated by changing the hue value of the color stop 1, which is the primary color. So we've been experimenting a lot to come up with a formula that works for creating pleasant looking gradients starting from a first color. So let me show you how we came up with this. So if we use the same color for both the gradient stops, and if we change the second one, so we realize that by changing the hue value, so this is, we've been switching to HSL, which stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. So if we grab this handler here and we move it slightly to the left or to the right, and in doing so, we're just changing the hue value, we're actually creating a good looking gradient. So this is what we do in the background, but obviously you can create your own custom gradient in any way you prefer. So let me eliminate this one and let me generate again the original gradient. Okay. And save. If we look at the code, you'll see we have the usual themes created by the color editor, and at the end we have two new colors, which are the two stops of the gradient. So gradient stop 1 and gradient stop 2. And we also have some additional utility classes, which I'll show you later how to use to create gradients. Background gradients. Now, because our visual editors are connected, we can switch to the typography, global, and check the generated classes, and you'll see that we have in here color gradient classes as well. The same goes for the buttons. So if you go to buttons and globals and then buttons, now we can use the gradients as background color. Now there is a strange blink effect because a gradient is actually in CSS a background image, so you can't apply a transition. So if we check the btn component and we remove the transition, now you can switch from a background gradient to another background, and you can't have a transition because it's a background image. So the way you apply a gradient to a button is by selecting the button and then changing this BG color here. Now you have a new section here called gradients, and we actually include two gradients, two options for each gradient. One which is a linear gradient going from left to right, and then we have a linear gradient going from top to bottom. So this is how you create gradients in CodyFrame using our editors. Now I have also exported a project where I am including already some gradients, because I just want to show you real quick how to use the utility classes always generated by the editors. So the color editor, the typography editor, and the buttons editor, and so on. So for example, if we want to apply a linear gradient to this H1 element, we can just write color gradient primary right. So right is the direction of the gradient, which goes from left to right. You can write, for example, you can replace this with bottom, and now the direction is from top to bottom. Now about the background colors, we can use a similar class. This time we're going to use BG, which stands for background gradient primary. And if we don't specify any direction, we get a radial gradient. But then we can also specify direction, for example, bottom. And now we are switching to a linear gradient, which goes from top to bottom. So this is all you need to know about using gradients in CodyFrame, and thanks for watching.